John, here we are again. I've been waiting to talk to you because, oh my goodness, I was going to say, oh my God, I don't think that's going to offend anybody because he is my God, your God.
Yeah.
It's so much going on, but I've been really looking forward to this interview because I'm getting inundated with messages, whether it's email or text or through Telegram, all the different channels, because this whole geopolitical storm that's fired up in the Middle East, it's very, very confusing. Now, there's a lot of stuff out there that people are saying, this is it, it's biblical, and is it not biblical, Mahoney? And I really don't know. So we'll bounce a little bit off this because I know you follow it very well, especially with Iraq and its currency and its new president. They're having a new reshuffle there, the cabinet ministers. So let's kick off tonight by saying, like, finding out what you know and see if it ties in what I sort of picked up with my little jigsaw putting together skills, and see what we can get some clarity on some of these issues, because it's really confusing so many people.
Well, first of all, yes, always great to be with you, brother. You have become a true friend in every sense of the word, and I look forward to us breaking bread when this is all said and done optically.
A lot of bread.
Yeah. Well, we're Irish, so it's what comes with the territory. Yeah, it's in the blood, but among other things. But yeah, no, absolutely great to have you back. I've had many comments. I don't know if you get this on your side, but like, why don't you guys do 2 shows a month? You know, we've gotten that. So
we probably could actually, but it's trying to find the time when both of us are free. But
well, yeah.
Anyway, let's see what we can get out today.
Sure. So let me see if I can help alleviate some of the confusion, for like you said. So let me get the screen going here as usual. Let me know when you can see it. It should take a moment.
Yeah, I got you. Loud and clear, yeah.
So I'm going to start with the finance stuff and work backwards as we always do. Okay, so new world currency is shaping up through BRICS. Basically, this article is just alluding to the fact that, as you know, Gaddafi, former leader of Libya, wanted to go back to NAR. They're one of the few countries that didn't want the private Western central cabal banking system in there. No surprise to our viewers. What this is really showing is that in the coming months, the BRICS amalgamation is just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger as this goes along. And you know all this, David, but again, this is just good for people to get visual effect, to see this, because you and I have a certain number, a little faith, but a lot of people need to see the physical eyes. And so while I wish that weren't the case, it is what it is. So we try to help, where we can. So this is really ginning up to that point. Let me find the next one here for you. Just give me a second. I'm trying to do this in a certain order. So this is one thing. This is a post from Nate Carter on X. Can you see this one here, David?
Yeah.
Okay. With Iraq going fully digital as of July 1st. Yes, I was on Mark Z. We talked about this last week. He's right. Iraq, just like Vietnam, they're all going to go digital, right, under XRP on a gold-backed asset. Again, what the concerned people have had is, well, am I going to be able to exchange my paper currency? Yes, the banks will take your paper currency. It's just you're going to get paid in your bank account digitally. Now you can go out and get some cash. I wouldn't go get a plethora of it, but you want to have some cash on hand, whether that's, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, that's up to you. But you just don't go bragging about it. Keep a low profile, common sense. But this article summates everything, David, very nicely. They're going to rack up the dinar to clean up the streets on the black market. You were talking about regime change a minute ago. This plays into that. Iraq may be the first country. They're going to be the first ones. Kim Clement said that many times over, right? This is more confirmation. The rest will follow suit. Vietnam is definitely ready to go. They're quietly backing their country with gold assets as we speak. They have a ton of it. I think they're number 20-something in the world, and they're probably going to be inching up as we go. Well, eyes on Zimbabwe. We'll talk about them in a moment. We've talked about Chamisa ad nauseum. Not all countries will be in the first basket. Of course they're not. I know these gurus talk about, it's all going at the same. No, it's not. David, it will never go at the same time. You would be cutting out legions of God's people around the world from taking advantage of the currency and other reset mechanisms, right? If you did it all at once. God's not going to do that. He's going to give his people time, as I said many times before, to get into systematically. We'll get into Iraq and Iran, the people there, and you're beginning a salvo in a moment. So we'll save that for after this is done. Thing is, do you think there'll be a fiat crash? Well, yeah. I just had a good friend of mine. You should watch the show if you get a chance, Mr. B. He has been with Schwab for north of 30 years. He's a statistical analysis expert, and he's showing that we're right now in the height of the melt up. So what you're going to see now is what Kim Clement said, part 2 of the grave surrender, as we've talked about offline, David, of Iran, right? Because there's no way that they can mount up an attack against the Israeli military, let alone the U.S., right? We're hitting a lot of DUMS units under there. So it's like 15 casualties of military, hardly, I believe, as far as I know, little to no civilians. It's very, very nominal to whatever the number is. It's to, they're not trying to go after the people, no matter what the fake news says. So
yeah,
there's that part. Here we go with BRICS again, a symbolic 200 denomination BRICS banknote unveiled in Russia. This is the unit. This is the form of currency that they're going to use with all the nations, as you can see right there, entwined under a gold-backed asset. Why? Because the world is awash with gold. What does it have a limited supply of, David? Silver. Why? Robotics, AI, and manufacturing. Silver is the best conductor of electricity on the planet to date. God's money, Haggai 2:8, the gold and silver mine. Stop me when you've heard this before. So here you go, repeating that refrain. What we think, this is what I want to get your take in a moment. So just download this, David, mentally, as you always do. What we think President Trump is going to do is say, I'm going to make all these peace deals, right? And all these trade deals, I should say, to be precise, right? To counteract the shortage of goods from China, right? And we'll talk about the Strait of Hormuz a little bit later as well. And to counteract that, we'll bring all these peace and trade deals. And then, hey, why don't we let them go on a level playing field? Where's he said that before? See what I mean? He's going to intertwine a narrative that the public can accept and get on board with the least amount of resistance. Here's one that's, let me play this one first here. This is Operation Sandman. This has to do with BRICS and the 100+ nations that are going to amalgamate to basically become the new world superpower to go against the Fed dollar and monetize the reset, essentially, right? So it's a collaboration of 100 nations in agreement to simultaneously sell off the Treasury holdings. Remember, the Fed is buying the debt, right? So the Treasury bond yield 10 and 30 year are in the tank. That's always what happens when you have a private Western central bank takedown, and a new reset incoming, a godly reset under precious metals, sending them back to collect the US dollar. I'll just play this brief clip here. Okay, so that, obviously was Trump on June 20th. So there you go with that. This was something I thought was an aside, David. I put this in for you. This has to do with the law. You were talking about last time we were on, you were talking about I think it was it the Buddhist monks or an Asian tribe or something? I forgive me, I don't remember exactly, but you were talking about the healing and the natural prayer and frequencies. Yeah. So this is the lost bells are being unearthed. Soon their energy healing will fill the air with harmony. So you can see here, put the sound on. You can see that these bells, like the miniature Liberty bells, if you like, are being unearthed. So the frequencies are returning back to the people. Sounds a lot like the movement with Nasara and the patents and technology and the med beds. It's all sort of being ginned and you can see Stanislaus there.
Where is that?
That's a good question. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. Somewhere in America, but I'm not exactly sure where. It doesn't specify. But let me go back to Zimbabwe because we said we were going to talk about that. So the RBZ claims ZIG will be Zimbabwe's dominant currency soon. Right. Well, what's tugged under the ZIG, David? The Zimbond. It's all going to be one. It's all going to be just merged to the center like a sandwich. Boom. And even though the IMF is corrupt, and we know they're corrupt, even they want in on this. So everything's going under the ZIG in this document. Talk about Harare. We talked about that Reserve Bank. It's all ginning up to the middle. Now let's put the other piece together. Who's going to help make that happen, you ask? Well, here's the answer. Nelson Chamisa. When it happens, it shall happen unexpectedly and suddenly. Where have we heard that before, David? A suddenly, why now moment. What did Israel do with the attack on Iran a week and a half ago? A suddenly moment. What happened this Saturday with our military in the U.S.? A suddenly moment. So this will be the same thing. You're going to see, you talked about it before, regime change. So I'm going to, in a minute, segue back to you to pivot on that. You're going to see regime change in Iraq, in Iran, in Zimbabwe, throughout the entirety of the world. Now, I will set you up with this point because I'm pretty much done on my end. You can verify this because you're a student of geopolitical world history. But what I'm hearing from my side is that a lot of the Christians in Iraq and Iran are celebrating wholesale this destruction because it's removing the dirty, corrupt Iranian proxies that created the revolution in the late 70s that are going to give them their countries back and bring in Jassara. What say you?
Oh, absolutely. You've got to go back. Well, I think it was 78, 79 when the Tsar was forced out of Iran. And then the Ayatollah Khomeini took over the first time. But they went from a country of freedom where they had open ski resorts and beach resorts, and they had clubs and discos, and there was no restrictions. Women were allowed to wear whatever they went. And overnight, all the mini skirts and clubs and ski resorts and beach resorts were gone. And now we're going to bring in the Sharia law. And the thing about Sharia law, it's all run by all men. It's so one-sided. The women have got no rights. They were only driving till recently, some of these countries, So, yeah, I think the young people now, they've had access to the internet. They can see what's going on outside of Iran. It always starts with these people saying, I'm sick of this. I don't want to do it anymore. So the regime change is all linked into the cabal that have been controlling this for years and years. They want this repression. They want this fear. They want the populations living in fear of, we're going to be bombed by somebody. There's always somebody that has been made the scapegoat. Look at the American last 20 years. It was either terrorists from the Middle East living in a cave. Before that, it was the Russian communists. And before that, it was, I suppose it was the British. No, it was the Vietnamese. Then it was the Koreans. And then it goes back. You've always had somebody that you've been educated into believing that is that evil and inherently hated of America. Death to America, death to America. It's been played in that tune over and over again.
Right.
What was interesting when you mentioned that about Gaddafi, because Gaddafi gave a really interesting speech, and they actually shut his mic off, because when he got up there, he basically pointed at the royal family of Saudi, saying, you are CIA puppets put in place there for the oil deals just to control prices. And, you've been screwing everybody in Africa. And there's that new country as well where he's forced the French out, and now he's selling his raw materials such as plutonium for the industry, for the nuclear industry, not just for weaponizing it, but for power sources. And his gold, he's put it up 6 times. So his raw gold price now, instead of them paying pennies on the dollars, he's thrown a French out, and the country's doing really well. He's got rid of it. So this colonial rule in these countries by whatever overlord you want to call it, whether it's a European nation colonizing it, such as Angola, which would have been the Portuguese, or, the Congo, which was Belgium. And then you've got Sierra Leone, which was the French. People are now waking up to it and saying, look, we don't want this anymore. We want to have our own decisions. Now, getting a gold-backed currency, because here's the thing about all of these African countries, John, they're heavily in debt. But what currency are they heavily in debt in? It's US dollars.
Exactly.
So all their debts, there's trillions and trillions of dollars that they've been allowed to get low interest rates from the World Bank. It's all fixed in dollars. But if it was fixed in something else, they'd have a chance to do it, because the US banks, the federal, it's not like they give the money. They just go in the back room, print some more, and say, oh, there you go. There's whatever you needed. It's like selling holy water to people when you're just going in the back and filling up a bottle from the tap. That's exactly what the Federal Reserve has been doing since the 1920s. So now it's time for this regime change, which is great because, I've literally, John, and this isn't an exaggeration, I've met hundreds of Iranians in my life. For some reason, they're always never very far away. When I was in the UK, there's a big population. There's a lot of them in Spain. I bump into them. And I can honestly say I've never, ever met a bad one. Very nice people. They would invite you in. You could break bread with them. You can sit down. I find them humorous, educated, and intelligent, and respectful. So this evil regime that they're talking about, this regime does not speak for the Iranian public.
No.
And it would be great if Iran could be freed of that, because, at airports, John, at one stage, they had everybody that was boarding a flight to Iran, they had secret police at the airport monitoring and taking pictures of the people that were going on there. And if you went to the airport and you weren't wearing the full proper Iranian headscarf and all of the outfit, you know, it was massive problems, like jail problems, potential execution problems. So anybody that takes a religion to such an extreme where they're controlling the population by saying you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to drive, you're not allowed to have an opinion, you're not allowed to speak up in public, you're not allowed to get education. It's time for a change, and this is why I'm excited about it. Now, explosions and military action, there'll be more to this. So Trump says we did an amazing mission, only the US military, our amazing military, could pull it off. It's because they needed a specific ordnance, a specific bomb that could do the job that they wanted to. Now they're saying it's a nuclear facility, but is it really? I mean, is it not some sort of military facility that's not necessarily for missiles? It could be used for anything. You know what? If they're making toxic weapons down there, they're mixing chemicals and bringing out virus, this sort of thing, or is it trafficking, or is it, you know, manipulation where they're running computer systems to drive traffic to certain sites to get it in a way? You know, we got all these organizations that they're funding, the terrorist organizations that Iran have been funding from Syria into the Lebanon, down into Jordan as well, as they've had links there with terrorist organizations. These guys are not rocket scientists. They're not business people. Where are they getting the money from? Where are they getting the weapons from? It's coming from somewhere. So if these countries like Iran are weaponizing this belief in a particular religion such as Islam, because again, go to these Islamic countries, they're peaceful people. Cairo is my favorite example, where you got Coptic Christians living hand in hand and next door to a Muslim population. They've been like that for a couple of thousand years at least, and it works, it functions. There's very little violence or resentment or persecution on either side. So the cabal's grip on the public in billions of people around the world is loosening, right, because of small, subtle changes like this. And half of them is people need this liberation of not having to get up in the morning to go into a job that they hate, paying a bank back for a mortgage that's overpriced, that didn't exist in the first place because all they did was print more money. It's time for a change. And the countries that we're talking about, such as Iran, such as Iraq, such as Vietnam, such as Zimbabwe, what do they all have in common? They're absolutely overflowing with raw materials that the entire world needs and depends upon every day. You know, it's not going to be a smaller country like, let's just say, Malta. Malta is, you know, it's an island in the Mediterranean. It's not going to be somewhere like that because they don't have any raw materials. Nobody's ever fighting over countries like Malta. It's only countries that are absolutely soaking in oil, petroleum, gold, silver, nickel, all of these things that there's war and territory disputes about. So I'm all in, John. If this is what we need to get the Iranian people back into the freedom that they so desperately desire, and I absolutely believe that, because I've never met any Iranians who say, oh, yes, Ayatollah is a very nice man. Yes, very nice, likely, yeah. Nobody wants to live like that. So, no. You know, and countries like Vietnam, since the occupation, that war that happened in the 70s, you know, I've been there. They're not even, there's no hatred or resentment towards the Americans. The Americans are traveling around freely there. They've long ago forgiven all that because, again, being manipulated by politicians into a war that none of us want, by lies such as weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There was no weapons of mass destruction. So I am a little bit suspicious of what I'm seeing. And I am a little bit aware of biblical prophecies that have been describing exactly the events that are going on. But is it a coincidence? And is it manipulated? Saying, okay, let's get some red cows and that'll sort that one out. I mean, my theory on that, John, is if you've got a bunch of people that are in power and they're saying, okay, let's turn to page 17 of this biblical prophecy. Okay, so this talks about the temple being reconstructed in the ashes from cows, you know. All right, well, let's get some red cows and send them there. You know, it can all be manipulated. So I'm aware of that, but I'm also aware of how accurate it is, what's going on.
Right. So very good. Thank you, David, for that. Let's make a tie down between what you just shared, excuse me, rightly, between our two worlds, the geopolitical and the financial. Because as you were sharing about the Ayatollah revolution in the 70s, and you talked about Vietnam and the war in the 70s, what a coincidence, because the Bible says there are no coincidences in the kingdom of heaven, or that's just a man-made thing to try to explain away what they can't rationalize in the human mind, which is a lot.
Yeah.
What's the common thread? 50 years.
Wealth.
Right. Well, the central bank, the private Western Central Bank. Central banks only last 40 to 50 years. This baby is like 5 years overdue at least. This should have happened during COVID. Could have, like I said to you before, this is for the new audience members. The reset could have happened in 2010 when Dr. Shabibi was running, the finances in Iraq. And then Barry Soetoro, the piece of crap that he is, put in Maliki, who, by the way, has been arrested, sequestered, and no longer has military protection. So when you say the cabal is cracking, they're not cracking. They're eviscerating. It's eviscerating. It's just playing out now for the sheeple to see out there in the world who have no clue what's going on, like our wise audience does, who's digging and seeking. And you and I are doing our level best to try to bring it to them accordingly. Hence why we're here. So you tie down between the geopolitical and the financial is very simple. Money creates power, creates wealth, creates subjugation to the haves and the have-nots. You remove the private Western central bank, you restore autonomy and freedom. You get away from the dollar hegemony. Henceforth, BRICS. As you said, I've been getting calls all last week. Maybe you have as well. This is what I said to you. This is the prophetic word of Kim Clement coming to pass. We saw the nuclear power plant attacks in the underground, especially the DUMS units, right? China has them, Russia has them, we have them. They're all over here in California. So what we think are earthquakes are really dumb explosions. Japan just had a 5.9 attack. Iran just had a 2.5. Here we go again, you see? So putting the pieces together, you saw step one. Now you're about to see step two with the weekend's events optically happening. You're going to see the grave surrender of Iran. If they hit a site, they'll probably hit some site in DC that they want eviscerated anyway. We just had the flags put up, which show our clear and present dominance over the cabal that's down, right? So all these micro fractions of pieces, like a puzzle, tell a story, right? We're just trying to put it together to help the people see what that story most likely is. But it comes down to the financial. Taking that away, that gives, and also creates Jasara, because it allows Iranians that live in America who defected because of the revolution can now go back to their country safely and prosperously, financially.
That was stolen, all the businesses
that was stolen. Yeah. And this is the theme all around the world. Zimbabwe, same exact thing. I think I've told you this before, but it bears repeating, David, because you just talked about vast resources. So that's why I'm bringing it top of mind. Remember, Zimbabwe has over 40% of the world's gold, 10% of the world's water supply. What are we talking about becoming your own central bank? Having your own land, having a water source, natural mineral rights, natural gas, oil, and the like. They have 90% of the chromium and platinum on the planet. Diamonds. I mean, that's why they go there for the diamonds and all the settings. That's a woman's delight, and other things. So it all tells a story that all these countries are going to get their freedom and autonomy back. The world is tired of it. Trump can make tons of trade deals, which will level the playing field. It'll give freedom to America. It'll also give freedom to them, right? And then we can talk about what I was mentioning before, the Strait of Hormuz. That was also foretold that was going to happen. The Iranians are already planning to close it up temporarily. We will see an oil spike, because if you've noticed, David, on the commodity side, oil is up. That too. But gold is up, silver is up, all-time highs again, and it's going to eclipse. We talked about that last week on a lot of my podcasts. My audience knows. The dollar index is down, right? That's big. Why? What's the dollar hate? Competition. What's it getting? Lots of it. BRICS and commodities kill the dollar. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, this is another question that comes up because, we talked about the BRICS economy. Now, the BRICS economy is basically being formulated to try to sidestep and get away from the dollar dominance of all trading commodities across the world. So they've all got together now and said, listen, we're sick of this. We want to do business in our home currency so we don't lose trillions of dollars every year on currency exchanges. And it's basically like a mafia. It's like saying every time you sell something, you got to pay me. And that's how they do it. All these deals are done in dollars. Right. So having this new financial system coming into play is going to be devastating for the dollar. And here's my point, is because Trump doesn't really want that. And I've heard him say clever things about it. You know, people are saying, he says, well, we can't allow that. We can't allow this dollar to do this. But he's already gone so far that he can't really stop it. So what he's got to do is he's got to form a system where they can control it. Now, this digital currency coming in, this is the thing. When you get paid from your investments, they can't just, what are you going to, you know, they can't just give you dollars anymore. It's going to have to be local currency. So look, you can draw out some cash. And most of the time, the only time you need any form of currency is when you're trading, when you're buying or selling. I'm selling something, pay me. I want to buy something, let me pay you. So having some form of electronic is really the logical way to go. But what we don't want to be doing is going in there saying, okay, you need a digital ID. And you do this, like we're going to limit what you're spending, because there's no out there. So going back to Trump, what does Trump want to do? Trump does not want to lose the trading dollars because it's good for the USA. But what he's going to have to do is figure out some system where they'll still get paid on it. So if he's going to bring out this new US dollar, this new trading commodity in US dollar, he's talking about turning the USA into the central crypto hub of the world, the envy of the world, because our system is so good and so clear and so straightforward. So there's no getting away from it. We have to change to a digital currency. Paper currency is going to fade out slowly over the next 20, 25 years, I would imagine. But there's going to be new, like the rainbow currency that we just saw.
5 years.
5 years. So the question is, what's Trump's long playbook? What's he going to do about competing with BRICS, John? I mean, are you on the same sort of page with me at that?
I am. I was just listening and I'm letting you talk, and then I'm going to, piggyback off what you said. So 2 things. Yes, he's killing the old Fed dollar, which was the hegemony of the world. That's how BRICS will be able to defect and create their own thing under assets and assets in the ground level playing field, like he said 8 years ago, right, in his first term. All while getting rid of the Fed dollar and taking that slavery of the deep state hegemony off their backs, as you rightly mentioned before and many times in other podcasts. Creating the US note allows us autonomy here in America to go back to the 70s, pre-Nixon, pre-Kissinger, right? And have a real US note dollar, which is what we have. We're just going back to basics. We're unpegging, or we're depegging the corruption. We're not going to accept, at least in the next 5 years here in America, any CBDCs or the digital dollar. For you guys in Europe, I'm concerned because I think that you will. And so I'm concerned for you guys over there, what you're going to do about that.
Well, they're definitely trying to bring it in. And there's also MasterCard have also announced something where they're going to say, okay, this new MasterCard, what we do is we monitor what you're spending it on. So if you're spending it on things that we deem to be negative for the carbon imprint on the planet, we're going to restrict it. So you can't buy too many steaks, you can't buy too many bottles of wine, can't fill up too much gasoline, So, and it's trickily worded. So when you agree to it, it's like, hold on a second, you flocked me because of what now? Oh, I've bought too many gallons of gasoline this week because, or you bought too many steaks or whatever. You've been at Costco, like imagine stocking up for a family event, 4th of July. Everybody goes crazy in the 4th of July. How many beers and how many steaks and hot dogs?
Yeah.
Exactly. So
we need all that energy to blow up all those fireworks.
Exactly. So I am concerned about it, and I see them trying to make moves, but I also see people waking up to it and making counter moves by saying, no, I'm not going to do that. The compliancy that people had before COVID isn't there anymore, John, and there's more and more information, and people that came out of COVID having awoken from this slumber of believing what's on the news are now searching and sourcing truth about upcoming events and what's going on right now, current events. They're sourcing it themselves. So I really don't believe they'll be able to get hold of it. But when this vast redistribution of the wealth, because Ireland's an interesting country that you could take this for. It was called, basically, the British Crown gave all these acres and acres of land away to one lord. So you'd have one huge landowner, and what he would do is he'd rent out little parcels, little areas, and the Irish would struggle to get crops there. And then basically the lord would say, oh, what do you got? Pay me. You owe me this. Pay me. Pay me. And he would take everything off him. So it's the man in the field busting and breaking his back to satisfy the High Lord sitting in the castle. And that's basically been everybody's life forever. Our parents did it, their parents did it, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, a few weeks off in the summer, a little bit of extra money at Christmas. You work for them for 40 years, you get a gold watch and sit down and, then you get cancer and die. You have to sell your house anyway. So people are wise to this now. They can say, why am I going to bust my ass, pay everything into the IRS for them just coming in and saying, well, yeah, we'll have another little $10 there. There's another one there, another dollar. You buy something, you pay tax, you sell it, you pay tax. It's like you're breathing. We're going to charge you breathing tax. And this carbon tax is an absolute joke, saying, oh, we're going to have to tax you for you dirtying up the air around you. So I think this redistribution of wealth through this currency and being stabilized and released against a gold or some other form of tradable commodity that's in high demand, silver, such as chromium, such as petroleum, is the way to go, because people are fed up with it.
I mean, David, exactly. Russia's already been doing deals with India on oil trade, right? Colombia can back their currency with beans, coffee beans, and whatever crops they grow in the ground. Zimbabwe can do the exact same damn thing. It's not about the environment. That's a bunch of crap. It's about control. It's all about control. Yeah. Why would they put all these rules down on you if they're so concerned about your health while they fly on their private jets, the hypocrite scumbags that they are? I mean, it's just ripe with hypocrisy, right? David, I'm sorry, this just came out from one of our great team. It's such a great team, man, including you, just phenomenal men and women of God who just work tirelessly to get this truth out. I want to give a hand to our team, because I can't do whatever it is I do without them. They're fabulous. Here's one from Amir on Telegram. In Iraq, reports are being made of a drone attack on American bases in the area. That's part of the narrative for the regime change. So what did Kim Clement say, David? When things seem at their worst, I will set my people free. It's going to look like rumors of war. Also, watch out for Russia, because spoiler alert, they're going to betray Iran when they get what they want. It's going to be a lot of backstabbing within these countries, or the appearance of it. That's going to create further confusion. I'm saying that so our audience knows it now. So when they see it, they're not surprised, right?
Well, one of my favorite biblical predictions about Israel is going to say, when everybody turns on Israel, and when you think that they're not going to make it, then people will understand that God has protected and helped them. I mean, there's definitely some biblical stuff going on right now. Know a lot of me, but I know a little bit, and I can see all of these situations. And are they coincidences? No, like you say, no such thing as coincidences.
No, and again, sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
These deep state satanic worshipping scumbags that have been running all of these political countries and decisions is of the utmost importance. So if we have to go through some rough days, which we have been doing, to get all of these people out, exposed, and never let them back in again, put them so far back into the pit, send them back to hell where they belong, and seal the top of that with 7 sacred seals, John. Keep them in there. We want to keep them in there so we can run our own destiny and make our own decisions. We don't need fat bureaucrats with dual nationalities, all, looking at their online accounts. These are the type of people that just go to their ATM or check it on the phone every day just to say, oh, look at that. How many zeros are there? Bribery and corruption is a disgrace in it. If you talk about the 7 deadly sins, these people are guilty of all of them. Sloth and wrath and all of the sins. I usually can remember more now, but I'm getting frustrated thinking about these fat cats that have been lying in their pockets of people's sweat and their brows and their for years.
100%. I'm glad you brought up the whole situation with Israel, because that's a loaded discussion, but it was always foretold that nations would betray Israel, would start attacking them. That's all part of the end time stuff, right? We are now in the 3rd seal. If you're keeping track, that's getting ready for the prosperity. What does that, what is that about? The harvest of souls, where people are going to come to know Jesus around the world. Do you think God cares more about you than me, you and I, than some guy in Bangladesh picking cigarette butts out of a basket somewhere? Because that's a thing. You've been there or been around that. That's a thing, right? So he loves everyone equally. He's not coming back until he gets the most amount of people to know him so that they will make a choice whether they will choose or reject. Same thing with Israel. Same thing with this wealth transfer. To say these gurus that say, oh, they're all the currencies are going to be built once, that's BS. And they're being used for distraction. I already explained that. God's going to give his people time because he knows not everybody knows about the dinar, the dong, the zim, the bolivar, and all the stuff that people are going to mention. This is going to be over a protracted period of time. As I see it, David, and I've said this before, for reprisal, we have about 5 years of the harvest, I believe, give or take 5, maybe 7. And I subscribe to the Joseph prophecy of 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, right?
Yeah.
And we will be able to do the kingdom humanitarian work, whatever it is you care about, whether that's education, ministry, missionary, feeding the lonely, the poor, the hungry, setting up housing. Great, have at it. That's a beautiful thing. I know you would agree with David as well, is that God gives us all unique and complementary talents. That's why we're ultimately here is to help each other. If we were all automaton robots like the cabal wants us to be with the jab and the chip, what would be unique about us? They want to reinvent DNA and think they know better than God because they're Satan. They're minions of Satan, thinking they can. All Satan can do is copy God. That's all he can do. He can't He can't imitate. He can't reinvent anything creative or new. So, God allows us to use our talents for the designs of helping one another and having fun and creating, inventive ways to serve in the ways that he put us. One other quick thing I want to mention, I don't want to be remiss to mention this. Do you know the other reason other than the Kim Clement prophecy why Iran was attacked that most people are not talking about?
No, tell me.
Chips and drives and microchips that have all the information going back to the Epstein files, everything that will implicate Barry Soetoro in the deep state that will be put out in the light for all to see. Trump has it now. They have all this stuff that's going to come out.
I wouldn't be surprised. One other thing I wanted to mention is I get these people saying, I don't have any currency, I don't have any bonds, I don't have any dinar or
gold or silver. Yeah.
Yeah, but look, if you can afford to get some, great. But I know there's a lot of people out there seriously struggling, John, as things get worse. And so the great thing about this reset of wealth is that, okay, let's say 10 people in your neighborhood, they have some form of investment and they get paid. What are they going to do? They're going to open up something. They're going to go looking for people that are going to run it. Say, if I was going to do some humanitarian stuff, I'd say, well, who's the best at that? This person. So it's not just a select elite few people that are going to benefit from it, because the first thing these people are, because if we follow the will of God, only the righteous will be blessed in this area. It's all of the projects that they're going to set up, like you just said. They're going to need good people there, and they'll be rewarded with that, saying, well, how much do you need? 100 grand? All right, I'm going to give you 200.
Sure.
So, oh my God, it's going to change my life. What do you mean you don't have a place to live? Let's get that sorted out. So the off benefits, the snowball effect of all of this redistribution and the cleaning of the souls. I mean, there is going to be a big purge of ridding the planet of the darkness and the evil. So I'm super excited to be going through it. And I tell myself every day, thank you for putting me here these days so I can witness this biblical events happening, this change in humanity, this the smile that puts on my face every day when I see things like, oh, well, that's getting closer, another step closer.
Couldn't agree more. I'm glad you brought that up, David, because I wanted to touch on that too. So thanks for kicking that off. Yeah, we get that a lot too. I don't have any money to get silver. I have any money to get this, blah, blah, blah. I get that. We're not unsympathetic, and that's completely understandable. One of the things I did when I worked with, Chris and our channel, the only reason I agreed to it was a silver commemorative coin was to do giveaways. And we did do a raffle giveaway. And when we get to the final credits in this movie, I'm going to do a sweep, what I call a sweep around. And I need like that. Do a sweep around and find out who would like some silver, who's in the greatest need, who can't buy it for themselves. And offer some more giveaways at the end to try to help to be a part of the solution instead of just being a slogan or a talking. Put your money where your mouth is, literally.
Yeah.
So I already started doing that, and we will complete that as we get to the end game here, folks. That's a hint right there for you if you're catching it. But to your point, that doesn't mean you're helpless. There's things that those people can do right now. I just said you have talents. Maybe you can knit, maybe you can sew, maybe you know about ecology, maybe you know about how to grow a garden. I don't know, whatever. Partner up with people in your community, because we're going to be coming back to community. There's this whole entitlement and I'm doing it my way and I got mine and I selfish crap of I don't need anybody's help. That's going to get eviscerated. The communities that do not partake in this, who don't know about it, are going to start needing each other. So you get in the mindset now. Start synergizing with your community, as you rightly said, people that are either starting projects or maybe they're in the infancy stages of it, or they're ready to go when they go to the bank, whatever. Start getting with them now. Chances are some of those people have a wash of currency, or they have a wash of silver, gold, or something, whatever, copper that they can part with. Start bartering, because where we're headed, David, in the next 3 to 5 years, I believe, is a peer-to-peer banking system, meaning you and I are our own central bank, right? Yeah. We don't need to, and the easiest way to think about it is like Venmo, Zelle, PayPal. They're all bad, but they're the model for what's coming. Because right now, if I worked with you and said, hey, David, I want your consulting on this, and you say, okay, that's £100 or something, I send it to you, Zelle, or what's the other one, Remitly, or something like that. But the point is, it goes between me to the bank to you. Now we'll just cut out the banks and it just goes right to you in a fraction of a second, thanks to XRP on the blockchain. Yeah. Another point, ISO 20022 now goes live July 14th. That's exactly 3 weeks from today. What's going to come before that? The big, beautiful bill, right? Mm-hmm. What's coming right now? SEC and Ripple are settling. They've already settled. I'm talking about optically settling their case. And that's going to bring XRP up the rear, and that's going to support all of these other initiatives we've talked about in terms of currencies and metals and Zim bonds and all that kind of stuff. The point is, start networking, start bartering, get in that mentality now, so that you can get some of those problems have solutions, right? Yeah. We focus too much on a society and what the problems are. What we need to be is solution oriented, and that starts up here. There's 18 inches between this and your heart. If you work that together, a lot of this stuff can be solved.
I agree. John, what else you got? Anything else you want to share and talk about before we wrap it up?
No, I think we emptied the vault pretty well. What about yourself?
Was it intense 45 minutes, wasn't it?
It always is.
That's good. Well, it's nice to have somebody else, because I admit I've been confused about what's going on in the Middle East. I haven't put a lot of time into it, but you can't help but get exposed to it. So again, it boils down to faith and hope. But I think faith and hope, they're pretty much in the same neighborhood, because you got to have faith that what you're seeing is what's supposed to be happening. And you got to have hope that you are being blessed enough to survive this storm that we've all been riding in. So if we've come this far, you've managed to survive this far, I think it doesn't seem very far away from the storm to clear, as the horizon's looking like the sun is coming up. So just keep riding the storm, folks. Just steer a steady course, stay in your faith and stay in your hope that you are being guided in the right direction. It's the only thing that keeps me going every day.
Yes. And if I may, just if you don't mind, just a couple little touch points to what you said. As you were sharing just now, Proverbs 3:5-6 comes back to mind. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. Seek him in all his ways, and he will show you which path to take, depending on which version you're going at. New International Version versus King James, whatever. It still says the same overall tenor, right? Yeah. And remember also, folks, this is key. I know this seems a little gauche. I don't mean it to in the on the backs of the humanitarian discussion, but it is an important point. Remember, the Forex rate is not the real rate. That's the corrupt Iranian proxy rate. The real rate is in the Ministry of Planning. That's their private sector. I just gave you a hint, folks. The countries copy each other, right? So we have a private sector. They likewise. If it's going underground, it's just a matter of time before it goes, to the surface. And we're not doing, we don't do dates and rates, but I'm giving you timelines. It's now been confirmed 3 weeks from today's discussion, David. You and I are talking on a Monday at this time. Here's the date so everybody can see it. Everything's transparent out in the open, because people bitch about that stuff. 3 weeks from now, you're going to see ISO kick in. That is on the backs of the big, beautiful bill. We got the 4th coming up in 11 days, something like, about 11 days, something of that nature, week and a half. So it's going to go quick, right? We're changing the frequency of times. We're seeing time shifts. Yes,
Speeding up.
it's speeding up. It's exponentially because things are in the flood phase. Yes, people will get into med beds. That's being ginned up. Everything is just kind of is converging at these timelines right now. So it's very, very exciting. And we'll David, remind us. I'll put the links in the description. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, Mahoney.tv. It's quite easy to find me if you want to watch what I'm doing. I haven't been doing a lot, John. My voice has been gone. I damaged my larynx. I'm filming a TV series, and I had to do some shouting and screaming. Of course, it's say and go again, and go again. And I didn't realize I was putting too much into it, but it's healed now. It's 95%. So I'm going to start recording again this week, next week. So Mahoney.tv. You'll find all the latest episodes of what I've been doing. I'm doing something tomorrow, so there'll be one up on Wednesday. But we'll be back in a month or so, no? You and me.
Maybe not. Maybe not. It might be on just a bit sooner. Hint, hint.
Yeah, if there's something cooking like that, you know what? You know where to call me. We'll get back on and share the news.
What you should do, David, is rub your throat. Just keep rubbing, and use your hair. And then your soft herbal tea. It's fantastic.
I've been doing that, Christopher. John, it's always a pleasure, buddy. You take care till we talk next time. God bless. Godspeed. And it's always great catching up with the audience. And I look forward to hearing what you've been up to in a month.
You too, buddy. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.